It's been 3 months since I moved here to Warsaw, and if I'm being honest, I kind of hate it. When you meet people from the other cities in Poland, they all also have quite negative opinions of Warsaw. And I didn't quite understand it because, in the beginning when you don't really speak Polish, everything is new, everything is beautiful. And on paper, Warsaw is a very beautiful city. So I don't want to just bash it because this place has a lot of things to offer. The fact that the city is so safe despite of how many people is in it and very, very clean is nothing short of impressive. Being able to walk around, for example, look, you have all these monuments and these beautiful nature and trees, and look how clean it is. There's not a lot of trash on the streets. And I think that's actually something to be extremely proud of because there are not many places around the world that are able to accomplish that. And on top of that, this is one of the most multicultural and diverse cities that I've been to. Yes, everybody here expects you to speak Polish, and for good reason. But I've met so many people from all over the places in the world, from Africa, from the US, from other European countries, from Asia. So it truly is a very international city. On top of that, because it's the capital city, you have the best of the best here. Everybody from these smaller towns who are in the top class of their small towns come to Warsaw to try to make it. Warsaw is also really well connected. It's right in the middle of Poland. It's a really good hub to be at, especially if you want to go to other parts of the country. I really like how convenient it is here. There are a bunch of gyms and grocery stores that are well integrated into the residents. You pretty much don't have to go that far. Any place that you live here, you're gonna have access to all your essentials, so you can stay in your little bubble. I also really like that Warsaw is a city of opportunity. A lot of people come here looking for a better life to, climb. If you want to meet people and to network, this is the place to do it. I also really love that there are just so many beautiful national monuments. For example, this is the Jewish monument, I believe, in remembrance of the people who died in the Holocaust. And there are tons of monuments like this scattered all around the city. So it's so beautiful to look at. And look how wide this place is. Look, beautiful, it's clean, and it really adds to the impact of the history and everything that was here before. But visiting Warsaw and living in Warsaw are two completely different things. Now, granted, I've only been here for 3 months, so maybe I just haven't had enough time to really settle into the city yet. And I think the language barrier also plays a very big role in my experience. I'm kind of stuck in this weird middle ground right now because most foreigners that don't speak Polish, they're stuck in honeymoon phase forever because you don't really get involved with the country, really understand the culture from a deeper level. You just see everything from a superficial level. Personally, I think that's very disrespectful to live in a country and not learn about the culture. But I understand why a lot of people do it. It could be laziness for one, but once you start learning a lot more about a country and their history and you learn the language, when you really get into it, and it becomes a completely different experience. It kind of almost ruins the honeymoon phase or the rose-colored glasses that you may have. Coming from LA, I feel like it has this very similar vibe to here in Warsaw, or just most big cities in general. For some reason, I have the nagging feeling that everybody here is trying to play status games, if that makes sense. There's a transactional nature of the relationships that you have here that I sense. Warsaw is nice, and I feel like this place would be a lot more enjoyable if you were in a relationship. Let's say you have a partner from a smaller town, or you guys are from a smaller town and you come to the big city together. Living in Warsaw would be a lot more enjoyable. But I wouldn't say Warsaw is a good place to meet people for a relationship because that doesn't seem to be the priority here. So one of the downsides of Warsaw is that the water quality here is actually quite poor. And it's led to me having a lot of skin issues, dry skin, dandruff. Your skin is one of the first things that people notice about you. So it's important to have a great skincare routine, and Teach Handley is the best. Teach Handley takes out all of the guesswork when it comes to skincare. They give you a list of instructions that tell you exactly how much to use and when to use every single product. All you gotta do is go on their website, fill out a survey, and they can recommend to you which system is best for you. A lot of people, especially men, don't have a lot of time searching through what products are best for you, so it makes sense to have all of your skincare products come from one provider. It's not random, it's not complicated. Teach Handley has a system that has worked for thousands of customers all around the world. Right now, they're hooking my viewers up with 40% off your first box and a free gift that is worth $20. You don't need any code or anything. All you have to do is click the link that I will put in the pinned comment and the description down below. So ever since I arrived to Warsaw, I've had this nagging, anxious feeling that I always have to be on the go and I always have to be doing more. And it's very difficult to explain. moving to a new city in general, there's always like a ton of excitement. There's so many new things to see, so many people to meet. Medical marijuana is actually legal here in Poland. I got a prescription for my first couple of months here because I was just had this like nagging, anxious feeling all the time, and I didn't know where it came from. After smoking for a couple months and doing a lot of internal work, now I'm sober. I haven't been smoking, and I still have that nagging, anxious feeling. I don't know if this is gonna go away because I've talked to people who live in other cities, and they all say the same thing. If they lived in Warsaw for some time, maybe a year or two, most people from other cities hate it here. And to be honest, I totally get it. In Warsaw's defense though, because the energy is so much like go, 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 hustle and bustle, I have felt an uptick in my desire to work hard. Ever since I've been here, I've produced a lot of music content. I feel like my Polish learning has actually ramped up a lot. There was a point maybe in the first month here where I felt like I plateaued, but a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to somebody in Polish and I realized, wow, actually I improved a lot and I can have way more conversations now just because I'm constantly surrounded by it. And funny enough, I use Polish a lot more here in Warsaw than I did in Krakow. That's why I think it depends on what point you are in your life that being in a big city may be for you. Live in a big city, but take what you can from it, but leave before it makes you hard. And the other way around too, live in a small city, but that is meant for like a different part of your life. If you're already established and you want to have family, I feel like that is a good environment for that. But this is a similar feeling that I have in most big cities around the world actually. Came from Los Angeles, I lived in Medellin for maybe like a year. Didn't really like it, moved to a smaller city. I was much happier there. That's where I met my ex-wife. Those are closer to my vibe. It's interesting because Warsaw is, in my opinion, like the perfect big city. It's not too big, it's not too small, it has a very diverse population. The public transportation is really, really good here. It's easily walkable. There's just so many things to really enjoy about the city. My biggest issues are actually with just the energy and the culture. And that's because I, as a person, look for more like deeper connections and deeper friendships. And I think you can even tell that in the kind of content that I make, right? And I find that finding these deep relationships are very, very difficult to do in a big city, especially considering that Polish people are naturally closed, but people in a big city are even more guarded and more on alert because that's just what happens when you have a big hustling metropolis and everybody's kind of to themselves. If you notice when you're walking around in parks and people are out, yes, there are some groups scattered here and there, but for the most part, everybody's just kind of minding their own business. They're either by themselves or with one other friend. There's no real feeling of like this strong community. And I don't think people are as friendly in general in big cities than they are in small cities. But actually, no, I take that back. I think here in Warsaw, people are friendly, but it's like a politeness, but people don't really want to get to know you. Whereas maybe in the smaller cities, because of the Polish culture, they're not as friendly up front, but then once you really get to know them, you can develop a deeper bond. Something I noticed here in Warsaw too is that I find it very rare that people kind of mix groups. People kind of just stay to themselves and self-segregate. So all the Westerners hang out with each other, all the Russian-speaking people hang out with each other, all the Asians hang out with each other, and then all the Polish people hang out with each other. And I find it very difficult to break into these groups. But that could be for a few factors. That could be because of the language barrier. But I don't think that's the case because I've talked to a lot of people from all different cities and people who have lived in Warsaw for a year or two. Making friends in Warsaw is very, very difficult. And because the city is so big, people usually live pretty far from each other. And because it's so expensive here, a lot of people just spend most of their time working. I was reading this article yesterday and they were ranking the top cities in Poland to live. And funny enough, Katowice was on the top of the list. And then there was also Rzeszów, and number 3 was Poznan. And Warsaw was near the bottom of the list. It was number 11. And I thought that was interesting being the capital city. But after living here for a few months, I actually totally get it. The cost of living here is very, very high, specifically rent. And that has gone up very significantly over the last few years. If you look at the cost of rent compared to the income, in Warsaw compared to many other major cities around Europe, I think Warsaw is actually one of the highest. So this is probably one of the biggest reasons why everybody has to focus on work so much. But it's not all bad. I've been able to meet a lot of different people here, and I think it's because I have a social media presence. So I've been able to network with a lot of different influencers here, a lot of foreign people, and a lot of local people too. I actually have a lot of local Polish friends as well. But I can't shake this feeling of just this nagging feeling of loneliness. And I don't think that is unique to me. I think that's something that a lot of foreigners feel when they come here. But I even noticed this feeling with a lot of the locals. And when I talk to them, a lot of them, if they were born and raised here in Warsaw, friends of people that they grew up with essentially. But I know it's a big struggle for a lot of people that come from maybe the smaller cities. The culture shock is very, very big. Last weekend, I went to Ostrołęka with my friend. His girlfriend lives in that city and he took me there for the weekend. And as soon as we went into the city, I felt such an immediate change in everything, in vibe, the people that I met there, the energy that they had. It was just a lot more relaxed. And I totally forgot what that was, because Krakow also kind of had that feeling. Because I was so excited to move to Warsaw, maybe I kind of forgot about it. But when I was in that small city, the air was better. I don't know, it just felt more homey. I almost kind of like dreaded coming back to the city, if that makes sense. Because as soon as we came back into Warsaw, I'm like, man, Warsaw is a beautiful city. And I feel very blessed and privileged to be able to live here. Cześć, siema. Kids here are awesome. As soon as I came back into the city, I just kind of felt this feeling of dread and like, oh, I gotta be back into the rat race and that whole entire zone. And that piece of being in a small city lasted for maybe about a day. And as soon as Monday hit, boom, I was back in work mode. I also think this feeling of loneliness gets heightened because right now it's summer. Everybody's out with their families. It seems like everybody's in a relationship. Everyone's out there holding hands. And re-emphasizes this feeling of loneliness, right? Oh man, I feel so simpy for saying that, but I think it's true. Maybe it's also like my age, right? Like seeing all these people with their families and their kids. That's something that I'm wanting more and more, especially as I get older. And I still believe that Poland is a really amazing place to raise a family, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to stay here. Also, something that I noticed is that it feels like a lot of people here want to be influencers, and maybe I'm a hypocrite for saying this because I also do YouTube. Is it just me, or maybe a lot of this external attention that we're trying to get is just a way for us to fill this internal hole that we have with wanting something more? I don't know, maybe I'm looking too much into that. Everybody's on social media. Social media is a pretty big thing here. And this is what I mean by like status games, right? I think status games are just a lot more common. It could also be that I miss the effect of being a foreigner and somebody different in a small town. Because when you look different than everybody else, you just naturally get a lot more attention. Whereas I think here in Warsaw, because there are so many foreigners everywhere, you just become like another person, right? I think to a certain extent, the transient nature of relationships in a big city is unavoidable. When you live in a smaller town, you're seeing the same people all the time, and you kind of have a reputation to protect. And I think this is a good and bad thing. I can see how a lot of people feel choked by the societal pressure to conform, or you have to act a certain way. But if you go to a big city and you're constantly meeting new people, there's also no real incentive to treat people well or with respect, because your reputation doesn't matter as much, and you can just meet somebody new the next day and you're probably not going to see that person again. I think this applies to both friendships and relationships. It does feel a lot harder to date here, I think, than compared to some of the smaller cities, because a lot of the times, like, you may start up a conversation and the conversation seems good, and then out of nowhere they just ghost you. I've heard that that's very common, but not just even with people like that you're trying to date, like people I've been trying to get to know or try to build relationships with. You start a nice conversation, things seem really, really good, and it just kind of stops there, and there's no desire for the relationship to go any deeper. And I wonder if that is a culture thing. I wonder if it's just a big city versus a small city thing. And I have the nagging feeling that this just is unavoidable no matter what. It's interesting because the loneliness that I feel here is quite comparable to the feeling that I get when I'm in the big East Asian cities. And I think it's because Polish social culture and a lot of East Asian social culture are very similar, and I think that's why we integrate very well into each other's cultures. But once all of that excitement goes down, you're working all the time, and you're also trying to be fit, because there's a higher pressure in big cities to look good physically because there's a lot more competition here. And I guess from the men's side, there's more pressure for us to not only look good, but also to make more money so we can provide. A lot of people thrive in those environments, and I can see why people like it. Maybe it's age, maybe it's because I'm thinking more about settling down and trying to make a family. I wouldn't want to raise my kids in a big city like this. Yes, there's a lot more opportunity. Yes, there's a lot more things to see. I feel like Warsaw is really lacking that Polish culture that I really enjoy, Warsaw and the rest of the smaller cities are like two completely different worlds. So my relationship with Warsaw is very much a love-hate relationship. I understand that right now at this point in my life, it's necessary that I be here in the city. There is no real perfect place in the world, right? Everywhere you go, there's going to be plus and minuses. When I was in Krakow, it was a lot more chill and a lot more relaxed, but there was a huge lack of opportunity. So that's why I moved to Warsaw, but you're giving up one thing for another. So originally, before I came here, I said that I'm going to stay here for 3 to 5 years so I can really try to hustle and make it. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if I can even last a year. I'm gonna try to stay for the year, see how it goes and reevaluate. But I won't be surprised if after the year I probably end up going to one of the smaller cities again. Let me know what you guys think down below, right? I know that I'm not alone in this feeling. I highly recommend you guys watch this video next, and I will see you guys on the next one.